black or white. It's not black or white. It's not black or white. It's not black or white. With Tim Stevenson and Diane Blakely. Not black or white. It's not black or white with Tim Stevenson and Diane Blakely.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to It's Not Black or White. We are your hosts, Tim Stevenson
and Diane Blakely.
And yeah, life is like a box of chocolates. But let's start with, how was your day? How was that windy road travel back on Ortega Highway?
Oh, it was busy. It was busy and a little bit annoying, but I had a lovely lunch before that.
Nice.
I had a wonderful time with
Lunch
a
is
good
always
friend,
good.
and we talked world events. Imagine that.
Yeah. So one of the things we're going to speak on right now is this whole SAVE Act.
Yeah, because it sounds so great in theory,
We're
doesn't
going
it?
to save the world. We're going to save. What SAVE Act means? Gosh, what does it mean? Save is an acronym. Safeguard America.
Okay.
Something. Voter. Safeguard American voter
Integrity.
eligibility. Something.
Yeah.
Eligibility. Something like
Is
that.
it eligibility? I don't know if it's eligibility.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So what does it actually do?
Well, according to what they've been talking about, how they're going to prevent illegals from voting is what it started out being about.
Mm.
But if you look inside the actual SAVE Act itself,
Mm-hmm.
you realize that they're complicating voting for people, and the current administration wants to, I think, prevent certain people from voting. And it's not illegals, it's women. Women are going to have trouble because they're requiring that you either have a passport, and FYI to the rest of the people out there, it's also going to hurt the red states because more blue states have passports. So
Gotcha.
you can go in with your passport. I don't know how that's going to work though, because states have the right to run elections. The federal government doesn't.
Right.
So I'm really curious to see how they're going to try to maneuver this, to say that you have to do certain things because it's the states that have the right to run
Right.
and facilitate.
So educate me on this one. So if you are a married woman and your married name is different than your birth certificate, if you don't have a passport, it's only when you don't have a passport, right? Is that how it works?
Right, because in order to get your passport it requires you to show those kind of documents, your birth certificate and such. So they've already figured you've gone through that part. If you're a married woman, you've changed. Say Diane Blakely decides to move to Wisconsin, and I have to register to vote with this new idea, the SAVE Act involved. I would have to go and register. I'd have to either come equipped, say on election day, with my passport to show that my passport, that I can claim that I was actually Diane Forsyth.
Got it.
And I'm not exactly sure how they make that restitution because my passport does not say that. My passport says Blakely on it.
Right.
So I'm not entirely sure how that works. But they now have put in the SAVE Act that if a voter registered worker lets somebody vote that supposedly is not supposed to, or they make some error, that there's prosecution for those people. So I mean, there's a huge threat of these poor, and usually I don't know about most people's voter polling people are usually elderly people who've retired.
Right.
And I have to say they're usually sticklers about the rules, which is great. But I just can't imagine like putting a threat in there, like if you make a mistake and some group of people gets to vote and somehow you didn't cross the T's and dot the I's twice, that suddenly you're going to be prosecuted. I mean, these people are doing it for free.
Right.
But that's not the biggest concern. The biggest concern is I truly believe that it's a form of manipulation to manipulate how votes come in, right? So before, when Trump was president, he got all up in the United States Postal Service, which has been wonderful in terms of mailing packages and letters forever. And suddenly it becomes this, juggernaut for this whole thing about, like, if you don't get your votes in on time, the U.S. Postal Service is going to cause your vote to be invalid. And just so you know, the Supreme Court saw that and said, because the right to be able to vote as a U.S. citizen is protected in our country. It's actually protected. But he was doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And then too many people got wise to the idea of what he was doing. And then they said, no, you can't do that. And then suddenly the Supreme Court's involved. But now he's trying to pass this SAVE Act. And he wants to pass it so badly, he's willing to disenfranchise American voters. So
can this backfire though?
It can backfire because he's going to hurt his own base, because
Right.
most of those people are not the people that, and let's just talk about how much it costs to get a passport. It's over $100.
Right.
And given this economy, people don't have a spare $100+ to go get a passport. That's not what they're going to choose between food and whether or not their passport's supposed to legitimize the fact that they can vote. Now, if they had enough money to travel and get a passport, that's a whole different story.
Right.
And just to be fair, they've run analysis on like who currently mostly has passports. And I hate to break it to people, but it's mostly the blue states. Those states have more money and the people travel more and therefore have passports. In fact, my husband and I think my passport's still good, but my son and my husband have to renew their passport. And I'm like, let's do it sooner than later before it becomes a problem.
Yeah, mine's up in 2027.
Yeah, but I mean, all of this stuff is just a attempt to kind of muddy the waters when it comes to voting. And I truly believe, and I get it, there's a good chunk of our country that thinks this guy is doing fabulous things. I have not seen how fabulous anything has been. In fact, every morning I wake up, I'm thinking, what other crackpot stuff is this person gonna do?
But I can say one thing. I can say that nothing feels like, yeah, it feels great today. It always feels like something's chaotic is happening, whether or not it's war, whether or not it's administration, whether or not it's just an infighting and people pointing fingers all day, whether it's this movement or that movement. I just feel like there's stuff everywhere.
Well, it's weird. It's like I've actually gotten to the point where I have to sort of contain what I see, right? Like if I turn on the internet, God forbid I should do that. And just to be clear, people, Yahoo's not a liberal place. If you actually read, you'll realize that all different news organizations contribute on Yahoo. You can see Fox's opinion. You can see AP. You can see Reuters. You can see MSNBC. You can see the New York Times, the New York Post, the Washington Post. I mean, I literally had somebody go, when I cited something on Yahoo, they were like, oh, that's a liberal. I'm so sick of this. It's like, just read.
To blame.
Yeah, stop blaming everybody for everything. I don't think that there's a load of Republicans stacking the deck all the time. I do think Trump does. So I want to make something super clear for our listeners. This person sitting here, I can speak for myself. I actually listen to that. In fact, Tim and I just finished listening to Fox News, and it was really interesting. It was interesting about how people frame information.
Right.
Like, what are the words that you're going to use? Because words are super powerful.
Right.
And sometimes people like to use words to frame something that's not happening at all.
Right.
For instance, like I love how we just finished watching a clip from Fox News where the interviewer is talking about the same act. And the irony, and you can attest to this, the irony about it is that the gentleman he's interviewing is getting married. He goes, oh, you're getting married in the next couple months. How will this affect your wife? And the guy's like, well, it's really straightforward. He never once says what the straightforward.
He went down this windy road.
Yeah.
And was like, well, apparently it's not straightforward because it took 5 minutes to get to a dead end.
Which he never said what
Just
his poor wife would.
What does she have to do? Like,
Yeah.
what steps does she have to do?
Yeah, did he
In
want
order
to
to
say
not,
it?
he didn't once say that. And I'm waiting for it because I'm like, sure, I'd like to know that information just to know.
Right.
But he never got to the actual information.
No, and the interviewer, piss poor interviewer, I must say he was, should have stopped him and said, can you, for our audience, better explain what that straightforward strategy is? But he didn't want to do that. He wasn't interested in helping people, even their own listeners.
And that's what I find interesting. Why wouldn't you get to the point when your audience is your audience?
I don't know.
So now your own audience is confused because they may want to know what that is so that they don't have an issue or a problem. Whether or not you need more time to get all the things done before this whole thing goes. So why would you tiptoe around the information when you're talking to your people?
I don't know. Sometimes I think there's a strategy by some organizations to keep people ignorant. Because I will say, whether you like CNN or not, and that was called Cable News Network, and when we were children, everybody watched Cable News Network, owned by Ted Turner, because it was the single most important network that covered foreign and
Uh-huh.
geopolitical affairs, things outside of the United States. They had boots on the ground covering, and they still do today. So all this garbage about like trying to make it like they're the lefties, no, what's different about them is that if that same question was asked, what are the steps that you will
Right.
have to take, that news organization will tell you.
Mm.
So guess what? It just empowers all those lefties that everyone's so worried about. Like, if you want to know something and know the facts and things, start spreading your ideas farther than just your own network. Like I said, we just finished watching Fox. I didn't find it very informative, but at least I did it. And it also helps me understand why so many people in this country don't know some of the things that I think they should know about what's shaping our political
Right.
environment. I mean, it's just really crazy to me. I mean, tell me what you think, but
No, every time I hear politicians talk on both sides, let's just be fair, this whole dancing around a lot of the information.
right.
It's like when you say, "Hey, how deep is that pool?" Right? And it's
Going for a Timism here.
it's a Timism, and instead of saying it's 8 feet in the deep end and it's 3 feet in the shallow end, what they do is they go, "Well, see, we put the best water in the pool that comes from a source, and the American people really want to know," and they still don't even tell you that. Then they say, "Oh, well, see, what we don't do is," and then they ask you a question so then they can strawman that question, right?
Right.
And then come back and use it against you, but never get to the point when you could just say it's 8 feet.
Right. They don't want to be direct. Now, I don't think that's true about all organizations.
Not all, but
Yeah. If you get to a Reuters,
right.
a reporter reporting for Reuters or the Associated Press, which for the audience, if you've been in news business, I was in the news business years prior, and those are really reputable,
right.
News organizations that cite their sources. They make sure that they find out whether it's actually factual or not.
But we're in a time now where if you do tell the truth, so for instance, I'm going to use like Candace Owens or Margaret Taylor Greene, somebody like that. If you do use the truth within your own organization and they don't like it, then they paint this picture of you being a traitor to the party, or you being this and being that, being the other, because you're supposed to ask questions even within your own party.
Yeah, right? I think that it kind of happens probably in both, but to a different degree.
It's a different extreme, for sure.
It's a different extreme. So,
right.
Like, I'm trying to think, like, if we were to apply what happened to Candace Owen and what happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene, has that happened on the left? And the only one that comes to mind, and I don't know if you remember this, who was the guy that SNL, like, I'm smart enough, I'm good enough. What was his name? I can't remember the gentleman that did that skit, but he ran for political office.
Oh,
and then he, this was several years ago, it was before COVID, and there was a picture of him looking inappropriate with another woman, and she called him out. She was like an operative for the Republicans.
Oh, how funny.
And she was like, yeah, he touched me inappropriately, or he leaned up. Yeah, I don't know what he did, but they made a big deal about it. And in the Democratic Party, they're like, we're not like that. We don't approve of that. And they told him, you better get out. We'll make sure you lose, basically.
Right.
And I remember thinking, are you kidding me? Like, there was no judge and jury. There was no opportunity to see whether what she said was actually factual. There was a picture of him sitting very closely to her, but she was smiling.
Which is everybody in every bar and every restaurant on the planet.
Yeah, I felt like, and he was a really good politician. I wish his name would come to my mind. Maybe it'll come a little bit later. But I just felt like, I thought it was extreme. Yeah. And yet, on the other side, they don't do that at all. I mean, you could be a massive creeper and get away with stuff. I rarely see them punish their own side. They're like, because we want the votes. So they were ready to keep, was it George Santos? What was that guy's name? Who was that?
Santos?
Yeah, it was Santos, right?
Yeah.
The guy who lied
about everything?
He lied about everything.
He is Lady Gaga.
And they kept him forever until it got so bad. They were just like, okay, we can't defend this anymore.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think it's
which was good on them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was good because you're like, oh, wow. But and I do think you should hold people to the muster test. I think when people do wrong things, you should be accountable for sure. But I do think that the parties are different that way, and I don't know if it's because
Well, it's just a different approach, like you said. So some, I forget who said this. Some lie in your face, and then some tiptoe around the truth.
right, they lie right to your face.
It's like lie to your face. No, that's not what it is. Even though your own eyes are telling you what it is.
Well, it was interesting. Speaking of the tiptoeing thing, you
Right.
know, I know we were going to talk a little bit about Pam Bondi. You knew some stuff that I didn't know. I was like, I went to lunch and I missed out on like a half hour. That's
Stuff
what
is
college
happening
is
like
now.
this now. Information highway is crazy.
I'm telling you, late at night, I'm like trying to figure out what should we talk about because there's so much. I'm not sure where I should draw the line.
Right.
But while I was taking a break, having some lunch, Tim found out. Like I talked to you earlier about Pam Bondi because I'd never seen anybody who's been brought to congressional oversight meetings ever who like argues with the people who are asking questions. Usually they may not answer it, they may tiptoe around it,
Right.
but I've never seen them actually come after the people who are asking them questions.
Oh,
Like
decorum is out the window nowadays. You know.
Yeah, she was awful. Like Adam Schiff was asking her questions, and she. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because it's not funny, but it is funny because I couldn't believe that the Department of Justice, the head of the DOJ, was literally like, "Well, you're a failed lawyer." I'm like,
Oh yeah, and my argument was, you're calling someone a failed lawyer in a house full of people, while you're being targeted or you're being
interrogated.
You're being interrogated, which means if he was a failed lawyer, he wouldn't be in the room.
Yeah, he wouldn't be in the room being able to
ask you
those
questions.
Yes, but she was so brutal. And then some other woman, I don't know who it was again, but she had glasses on, short little bob, mature woman, and she was also asking her, "Why have you not like brought to the forefront two of the people in Trump's administration who are named in the Epstein files? Why haven't you investigated them? Why haven't you called them out?" And she literally tells the woman, "Oh, and you didn't vote for, you're anti-Semitic. You didn't vote for a law that protects, you know, people like Israeli people." And the woman's like, "Are you serious? My grandparents were part of the Holocaust."
Right.
You know, I'm like, but that's how ridiculous.
But that's the
like,
spin.
I was like, wow, you know, I was really glad that woman said, "Are you serious? Are you really going to go there? Like my family survived the Holocaust. My grandparents did." So I just think things are out of control. And like lately I am, back to my point, I am super afraid to turn on the television because I'm worried, you know, and, you know, I know I've been talking to you a bit about what's been going on in Iran and I went crazy. I'm like, it's not the same as Venezuela. And I am not a super duper expert, but I'm smart enough to know that if you're going to wage war on another country, you better understand, you better be able to map out what you're going to hit, and you better darn well know what's in those buildings. They did not map out what was in those buildings. Now it's come to fruition that their data was incorrect. Like it was old data. They didn't realize they had moved a school. And I think that's why you don't bomb people, you know, why we always see missile launches and stuff in the dark of night, because what they're trying to do, even the most heinous country seems to get this idea that you're not supposed to bomb during civilian hours. So like schools and businesses and people aren't at their place of employment or where they go to school. And that's why those poor little girls, which by the way, were the ages between 7 and 12.
Right.
And, our Tomahawk missile hit them, and just for
sadly enough, you know, I don't know how to frame this. Sadly enough, war doesn't have rules.
Well, it doesn't have. Well,
It's
it
not-
actually does have some rules.
Well, we're supposed to abide by like the Geneva Convention and like all these other things, but it's war, right? I'm not excusing anything. But what happens is they'll brush it off, right? Because they're saying, well, he's saying we're at war, and some of the people are saying we're not at war, we're just in a conflict. I go, however you want to frame it, if bombs are going off, people are getting killed, I call it war, you know? But unfortunately, whether it's friendly fire, their fire, whoever's firing, people miss. Planes fall out of the sky and land on all kinds of things, and it's horrible. Now, they're supposed to know what they're hitting because usually you're taking out specifics like communications or planes or like there's a whole militia in that building.
And I'm going to push back a little bit on that because we have very specific drones, missile heads, and military warfare that is calculated very specifically by algorithms and computers. And those computers and those algorithms will tell you to the dot where they'll land. So not realizing what's involved in the area that you've showcased to hit is where the problem was. So they knew exactly, and let me tell you, they hit exactly what they expected to hit. What they didn't do was they didn't make sure what was in the building.
I was just gonna say
and
that. Yeah.
Secondly, they did it during the hours that civilians are up doing their thing. I would plan really well. I'd be very careful. I wouldn't rush to do something. And the one thing that I know I would do different is I wouldn't bomb during civilian hours.
Right.
I would say we're not doing that. We're not. If we've got to figure out what we have to do. I mean, they took out Maduro in the middle of the night, okay, in Venezuela. But they didn't think that it was okay to consider doing something at night with Iran. So, I mean, I don't claim to know everything that's going on. I don't claim to know how much enriched uranium Iran has. But what I will say, as a simple human being, I know that I would not make a decision like that. I would be like, no, there's kids. One, I would know what was in the buildings I was bombing. I'd be like, if you're going to take out this, what's in those buildings that you're going to hit? Because I don't want to hit people. I don't want to hit. I don't.
Did they say what they thought was in that building? Did we say
They did not say. They didn't know.
So did we shoot that building, or was it Israel who shot?
No, we did.
We did.
We did with a Tomahawk missile, and guess what? The U.S. are the only ones that have those missiles.
There's like 6 countries that have it, but we gave them to those countries.
We gave them. We're the only ones that produce Tomahawk missiles, and it was ours. And it's been widely reported now by multiple news organizations that it was our missile that did it. They even have footage of our military doing it. So for those people who because I had a few people from Iran say something to my husband, this group or this terrorist group did it. And I'm like, well, that sounds really great. It certainly takes the onus off us, but little terrorist groups don't have those kind of missiles. People think they do. They have warheads. They do, but they don't have those.
Right.
And guess what? We wouldn't even give those to Ukraine. We wouldn't give Tomahawks to the Ukraine.
Wow.
So we certainly aren't giving Tomahawks to Iran to drop them on their own children. And I don't think there's anything funny about that.
No.
I'm laughing because it's so absurd.
Right.
Children. I mean, you want to make people hate you? Kill who they love. Kill. So just so everybody knows.
Children and dogs. Right.
Yeah.
Top two. Yeah.
And in what we did,
at least in this country,
what we did to the Supreme Leader's family, now they have, and this is unbelievable to me. Everyone's like, oh, regime change. Well, the son of the Supreme Leader is now the Supreme Leader. And I guess now someone's seen him. Nobody had seen him. Some people
didn't know that was going to happen.
Huh?
In those kinds of countries, it just goes down the family.
No, they don't have a hierarchy like that.
They don't?
No, they don't. It's actually a religious post. So based on how far you are up in the clerk or Shia, I think it's called.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
How high up you are religiously is the people decide. And he actually doesn't hold a rank high enough to be the Supreme Leader. But they took out so many people, other people. It
just trickled down.
Now
you're you're the 10th person down, and the other 9 got killed. Therefore, you are the leader.
So somehow, and also behind the scenes, and he also has a very strong relationship with the military in Iran. So people are not looking at the military in Iran like, oh, you think you take out the leader. In order to have a full regime change anywhere in the world, I read a lot about history, folks. I don't look like a history buff, do I? I don't look like that.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
Diane's doing a lot of laughing a lot of times, but I'm also reading stuff. And so in this situation, because it's a religious, political situation in Iran, they had to look for somebody, but they also had to look for somebody who really understood their military, and the military is very loyal to him. And as of yesterday, nobody had seen him as far as what I've read. Nobody'd seen him. Recently, they saw him with a fractured foot and some lacerations on his face, which means he was probably
in a building
that
right. Got hit.
Yeah, I don't know how it works. Like if he's in a compound with the rest of the people,
right?
But his wife was killed, his children were killed, his dad, of course, was killed. The dad's wife was killed. So his whole family is obliterated. And like I said, you want to make somebody hate you,
right?
And just to be clear, he didn't say he hated the American people. He said he hated Trump. I mean, he made it quite clear that he's not coming after American people.
Right.
He's holding the responsibility on the person who pulled the triggers, who dropped the bombs, which I don't know if I've ever heard another leader from another country isolate a leader of another country. Like just say that.
No, usually they just say death to America.
Yeah,
right?
Well, this guy did not do that. And everyone should know that, because that seems to be the stance that the administration wants to take, that they're saying death to America. Right. It's not to say that they have not said that, because that has been said before.
Of course.
This guy didn't say that. He said death to Trump.
Oh,
That's
wow.
what he said, which was really powerful, because then you've got like somebody who, our government and the leader of our government is like, you're going to give in and bend a knee to us.
Right.
And this guy's like, well, I'm not coming after your people. I'm going after you, which, is a scary prospect. I mean, whether you like the current president or not, it's scary to think that a country could do that. And just to be clear, because who was it? Somebody I was talking to, they were really concerned that the missiles, the warheads that Iran had reached California. Thought that was interesting. The FBI, Kash Patel runs the FBI, and he's told ABC News that Iran was going to bomb California.
I saw that.
That's the most ridiculous thing. They can't reach us with even their longest missile. Only goes 1,500 miles.
An ally could, though,
8,000. An ally who? First of all, it'd be really hard to find somebody who could get past our missile defense system. We have the biggest missile defense system in the world. And in addition to that, why California? Why not the West Coast where it's close? All like,
depends on where it's coming from. But I think people see California as like Los Angeles, or Washington would be the biggest target.
Right? Yeah, it would be the biggest target. But I thought it was interesting that, we're like 8,000 miles away from the most advanced long range missile they have, which is 1,500 miles.
Right.
Now, do they have one and Diane Blakely doesn't know about it? Hey, I don't know. But our military should know that. So should our central, intelligence agency, our FBI, all of the people that make us safe should know that. Just tell Kash Patel to stop shaking champagne at the Olympics on our dime.
He was living his best
Start
life.
doing his job.
Yeah.
Because there's bigger things. Did Kash Patel know about this? He should have. And he should have been where we're paying him to be, which doesn't mean he can't have fun. But on our tax dollars...
his role is what? He's the head of what?
He's the head of the FBI.
The FBI. Okay. I will say this because I know I have a source. But FBI, CIA, NSA don't always share information with each other.
It's too bad if you're having a war that you're not...
Right. They don't. I know that for a fact because somebody's told me that who works for the FBI.
Why do they not do that?
It's weird jockeying for position. It's like saying, I got more intel than you or whatever. But they don't always share it. Sometimes they fight about it because they're like, well, why wouldn't you share that intel with us if we're covering this territory?
Well, I think before you go to war, there should be like a briefing on all of that.
There should be. Absolutely, there should be. Because at that point, we're all on the same team.
Well, I'd like to think Americans are on the same team, but I'm finding out quickly that Americans are willing to not be reasonable, like have reason when you think stuff. Like people who disagree with my position, oh, you have TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, and I say,
yeah, but can I say that about everybody who doesn't agree with me? Right?
Yeah,
you have TSS, Tim Stevenson syndrome. because I think because you don't agree with what I say, now all of a sudden you have some sort of condition.
Right. Well, I think they think what somebody likened it to, like if this current administration would share a more liberal position on something like transgender, that suddenly all the Democrats would support him. I mean, it was just the most ludicrous thing. I think what you do is you take information in,
right,
and then you figure it out. You're like, if A, B, and C happen, then D happens, right?
Right.
But to not like be reasonable or thought provoked or a critical thinker,
Right.
that's what I think the problem is. People are like thinking that if you go to college, suddenly you how could you vote for Trump? You went to college. I think it comes down to the way your brain works, like your critical thinking skills, like
Yeah.
how
And
well
it's
you
and
think
it's
about
not
information.
it's not black or white like that, right? It's not black or white.
There is some
If you go
gray
to
area.
college, or it's this. If you go to college, it's that. It depends on what you're doing.
No, it does. Like,
Mhm.
like I always liken it. Like, I have a 16-year-old and he's a musician and he wants to be on tour.
Right.
And I'm like, you're going to college.
Now I have a random question because you brought up him as a musician. In the general consensus of the world, if you say musician, do they assume he's one or the other?
What do you mean?
Is he a Democrat or a Republican?
Oh, they'll assume he's a Democrat.
Right, which is crazy because Kid Rock is a musician.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Morgan Wallen is a musician. So to say that a musician is one way or the other is asinine because we know damn well there are thousands of musicians on both
Yeah.
sides.
Yeah.
Right?
All you have to do is go to the Country Music Awards and you'll realize that none of them are. Well, not. There are some.
There are some.
There are
because
some
I
Democrats.
was in Nashville last year and this one woman was going off about certain country musicians. They're freaking liberal. They were talking about country singers.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Really?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah.
I would have been interested to be a fly on the wall
Yeah.
there.
I was like, oh. And it threw me because I kind of, in my ignorant brain, thought, oh, maybe they lean more right as a
Right.
country singer, but that's not the case.
What was it? The Dixie Chicks, which are now called the Chicks, because apparently putting the word Dixie in
Makes
front
it
of it
feel
makes it
Dixieland.
like Dixieland. So they call them the Chicks now. But I love that group, and when George Bush was president, they suffered because
I remember that.
they spoke out against
Mhm.
George Bush and suddenly got culture canceled. Is that the right
Right.
word? Is that the
Yeah,
word?
cancel culture.
Culture. Am I saying it backwards?
Yeah, and that was when
Yeah.
that was new. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you said something against Bush, and they just got slammed.
Yeah, and suddenly you're like, what happened to the Dixie Chicks? Suddenly,
Right.
no more music. You don't see them.
Mhm.
And now that that's gone, you notice they don't say one people.
Which is crazy because nowadays you probably be more famous by saying what you said now.
No.
Because I think cancel culture means people talk about you, which means you have publicity. There's no way to cancel people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I've had people try to cancel me. They snooze me.
That's different.
They
Snoozing
snooze
somebody
me
on
and then
Facebook
they
isn't
cancel
ruining
me.
your life or your career.
No, but I do think if you get too, I don't let my I'm sure I'm blowing that up doing this. but
Some people were like, I beg to differ.
I wasn't blowing myself up till I started this, but
Right.
but I want people to know the way that I think. I'm never gonna step on somebody else's freedoms
Right.
with what I think. If you want to have 500 kids, go at it.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you you can't.
Right.
And in the same token, I don't want someone to tell me that I have to have kids.
Right.
You know, but I'm not going to tell somebody what religion to be.
Right.
You know, if you want to be a Muslim, be a Muslim. If you want to be a Christian, be a Christian. And I don't want you telling me what
Right.
religion I'm going to be.
Well, isn't that the whole point of kind of the root of a Judeo-Christian coming to here because they can practice their values?
Well, for sure.
So
I
why
mean, our
shouldn't
founding
anybody else have the
fathers-
same freedom?
Yeah, I think we talked on the last podcast about our founding fathers about whether they were Christians or deists or, you know, and because a lot of people like to say they weren't Christians or they were Christians to support their position on making. I don't think the United States, from a political standpoint, should ever adopt any kind of religion because that we are a huge tent of different types of human beings, different cultures, different perspectives. And really what's shocking to me is that when you're sitting down at the table worrying about how you're going to pay your bills, how you're going to pay your mortgage, how much gas costs, we're going to get into that.
Has
You
it
know,
caught up?
yeah, you know, I don't think kitchen table topics are like, what's Joe next door praying to? Does he have an altar for Buddhism or is he going
Don't
to celebrate
care.
church?
As long as his lawn looks good when I drive up to my house.
Yeah,
But-
I just don't.
Right.
I'm not going to tell him what to do. Now, if he's spraying poison in his backyard and sleeping over the fence and making
That's
some
one
kids,
thing. Yeah. Trespassing.
yeah,
We call that. Yeah.
I'm not going to go for
Yeah.
that. But at the end of the day, you know, part of what makes our country so great is that people can be what they want, and they can do stuff like what we're doing right now, is speaking out and saying certain things. Although
all things human, though, please. If you're not a tree, you're not a tree.
Right.
You just aren't. You're not a lamp. You're not a tree, and I will fight that one to the death. You can be human if you're a human.
There are people out there doing that.
Yeah, I'm a lamp. I'm a tree. Great. I didn't know lamps spoke English, but okay.
Is that kind of like the Furby thing?
Furry is the same thing. Sorry, all the furry community's gonna hate me.
Furby
Furry.
Is it called furry?
They're called furry.
Okay,
They believe that they're animals. However, when they interview a furry, they speak English. And they tell you things like, I wear a costume. That is not a dog. Dogs don't wear a costume. They wear their fur. That's their skin. You, however, are trying to explain to me that you're a dog in a human language, not a dog language. And you know who doesn't think you're a dog? A dog.
Yeah. I don't know where that came from.
They're gonna come after me for that one. But
I don't know what that was all about. That was a little fad when my son was going to school. And we actually prevented him from going to a school where a lot of creatives were, because we had heard that they allowed kids to let them dress up in furry costumes and be walked on with a leash.
And you just said it.
You know, for me.
Right. And you just said it. Let them dress up as a dog. Which means they're not a dog.
Right. I was very, it was not appealing to me, because I was mostly interested in my son getting, number one, an education, and number two, being able to foster music and the arts and stuff. And I thought that was a huge distraction. And also, I thought, I believe in Halloween. I love Halloween. It's one of my favorite holidays. I love to dress up, but there's no way that I think that your child who's trying to form their identity should be doing that all day long. Or letting someone walk
Halloween is a costume party.
Yeah.
It's a costume party.
I love that.
The whole point of Halloween is you're dressing up as something else.
No, it's just kind of weird when you think about how, I think one of our biggest problems in our country is how the extremes are. You know, and I sound extreme to some people who want to support this administration, but I can also tell you I voted Republican on multiple occasions.
And there are certain things, like I've been independent my whole life.
Yeah.
So I have conservative and liberal views. Most of my liberal views are things like pro-choice.
Right.
That's a liberal point of view. But I'm also pro-gun. That is a conservative point of view.
Right. I think I'm pro-Second Amendment. I think you have the right to bear arms. But I am one of those people who says the kind of arms you're allowed to bear matter. I don't think a regular citizen should have a military weapon that can kill hundreds of people in less than 2 minutes.
And if you do, you should have to go through military training.
I just don't even see a way where that's even plausible for me. Like, I don't think someone breaking in your house is going to come with a band of 100 people that you have to defend yourself with. I think you'll have plenty of weapons of choice that give you at least 6 rounds to shoot somebody who enters your home. And that would be defending your place. And I think you have every right to do that. And I think that's not liberally accepted from if you're super left. But
I don't think, I mean, because I think there's some extremes to what you should have and shouldn't have, and why you have them. Because no one's putting a magazine, an AK-47, into a deer. Right. But I will say this: a lot of people have those kinds of weapons who've never actually fired them more than on the range. Because most people, when they get shot entering a home, get shot with a shotgun or a pistol.
Yeah.
No one's like, man, I got hit with an M16. M16.
They get shot by their own.
You know what it is, though? It's a deterrent, right? It's like saying, hey, I got 30 rounds of this thing. You really want to come in my house? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think. So this is my one thing, and I want to get your opinion on this, being that you own a gun. I've always held the idea that, so I have this friend, and I'm going to call him out, Jim Martucci, because I think he's a stand-up, super wicked smart guy. And he gave the best defense to the Second Amendment that I've ever heard. And he probably doesn't remember telling me this, but if you're listening, Jim, I'm calling you out because it's good information.
Right.
So he has all sorts of different types of weapons, including those little stars that you can send flying. And end up in someone's head. You know, the
You'd
real.
be like ninja stars.
Yeah, the ninja.
I have
stars.
those. I have those.
He has.
I've had them since high school.
Really? So
Yeah.
he has those, but he also has probably some of the more military guns that I am nervous about. But he said, I keep all of my weapons in a safe, and I am the only one that knows the code. So I asked him, oh my God, what if you're gone from your house and someone breaks in, your wife and daughter can't get to them? And he goes, exactly. He goes, they don't know how to use them. The likelihood that those guns will be used on them is super high. I'm the only one that knows how to use them. So he goes, they better call 911. But it was the most logical way I've ever heard someone say, I own firearms. I know how to use them. I know the code to it. And the people that don't know it don't have access to it. It's like it doesn't exist in their house.
Right.
And it was really hard to argue that because you're like, well, you have the right to bear arms. You're being safe about it. And you're preventing the people that don't know how to use them in your own family.
Smart.
And also, he's doing something else. If someone breaks in, not any of those people can get to the guns that he owns and use them on his family.
Right.
So I was like, so you get some credit there, Jim Martucci, because that's the only person that's ever positioned it like that. And I thought that's really smart.
Well, they make good safes now. Like you can get a safe that is will only open up with your thumbprint, and your thumbprint
I
is
didn't
unique.
know that.
Where you go like this, or it'll scan your eyes. Those exist. So only you can open it because it only recognizes your thumbprint or your thing. Or the fail safe. The fail safe is a code.
I need the thumbprint thing
because then it's just unique to you. That nobody in your family could do that. It's just you.
So do you know how? I mean, you practice shooting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't go too often, but I've been a few times. Even when I was in Nashville, I was shooting with my buddy Ross and his wife.
And you shoot with moving targets, right? I think you were.
Well, I've done both. So when you go to a range, you're just shooting at a target, just to get used to like the kick and things like that. But I took a tactical class because targets don't stand still.
Right. That's a
so
smart
you have to kind of assess what's happening behind your target, right? And assess what it looks like from another person's perspective when you point a weapon at somebody. So let's say there's somebody standing next to my car and he brandishes a weapon. If I pull my weapon out, right, and I point it at him, and a guy comes out of the building next to us, all he sees is me pointing the gun at him. He has no idea that I pulled the gun because he has a gun.
Right.
He just thinks maybe I'm the aggressor, and then I could put myself in danger because I'm unaware of the situation.
You know that very thing happened, right? So like Kathy Gifford, who's married to Mark Kelly, the senator in Arizona,
right? When
she was shot, somebody had a conceal and carry with them.
Right.
And when the law enforcement arrived, they almost shot a guy who was actually protecting it.
Right. Because they don't know the situation.
They didn't know who, and he was legally armed with a concealed.
But they don't know that. Carry. They only see a guy with a gun. That's why you have to be super careful. Like when you take a tactical class, a guy will tell you how to talk somebody down and use your hands. Like if your hands are up like this and you're like, hey, I have a weapon, right? It's different than if you're just like this, right? You could be like, hey, man, I don't want to have to use this, right? So you have to learn situational things, and your adrenaline's going, and you have no idea if there's a person to the right or the left, way back over there. So if you miss and accidentally hit somebody else, manslaughter.
Well, that's why I thought like the thing with Mark Kelly's wife, Gabby Gifford, it was such a profound thing because, you know, you have to be so concerned about. That's where conceal and carry becomes dangerous because you don't know who the perpetrator is. You've got all these people who are legally allowed to have a gun on them and to draw it in a situation like that.
Right.
And then suddenly you don't know who the enemy is, and that's how more casualties happen. Now, I don't know how that ended out. I mean, it didn't end well, obviously, for Gabby Gifford. She'd already been hit in the head, but and she's doing much better, and we love her, and she's really great. We love her husband too, and you know, and I'm hoping that he decides to make a run for the presidency. Got my backing, Mark Kelly, right here, right now. I just think he's a really sharp individual. He served in our military. He's a reasonable thinker, and I think he has all the attributes to be a great leader. So I'm hoping he throws his hat in. We'll see how he does when he you know, debates. If he just does decide to pull the trigger, I think that he'd be the right guy to run for president. I think he'd be great, and I think he has a lot of experience. And so far, so good.
Right.
He stands up when he needs to.
Yeah.
When he says, "You can," Trump got mad at him because he was one of 4 people who said you can disobey orders to do illegal actions. Which, by the way, folks, don't get all your knickers in the twist over that, because that's actually something that they are allowed to do. That's actually stated, and people don't realize that. They're thinking he's saying something new. I'm like, no, you don't have to do that. Because you know what happens to you when you do something illegal at the beckoning of one administration? You can end up in crimes courts.
Yep.
International crimes
and no
courts.
one's going to care. They're going to be like, you still did something illegal even though you were told to do it.
Something terrible.
Right.
I mean, how do people think what happened with Hitler and all those people?
Right.
They had all those trials of those people who did exactly what they were told to do, which was not good,
Right.
caused human genocide and absolute war crimes. And then they were held accountable for war crimes.
Right.
So think before you do something.
Yeah. Use your noggin.
Yeah.
Like David Goggins. Or Goggins, Goggins, Goggles. I don't know, something like that.
I mean, think about all the things that we've talked about. This is how crazy fast the world's going.
Yeah.
We managed to cover Pam Bondi.
Right.
We managed to cover the war in Iraq. We managed to cover the SAVE Act. And then we're talking a few things about gun ownership and different things between, like we picked this title for this podcast because we do think there's gray areas to the things that we talk about. Not just gray areas to like what we think politically, right?
Right.
But also human wise and culture wise and skin color wise. It's always the perspective is really different. Because I actually think culture wise, and being that you're a man, you get a totally different experience.
Right.
It's not only the skin color or your gender. It's all the things that have happened prior in your life that have helped shape how you feel and think about stuff. Like, I could never know exactly how it works for you, but I find it interesting that both of us come to similar places more times than not.
Yep.
I don't think you and I have like really had any like real insane disagreement. I mean, I guess if we did a man versus woman thing, we could be around.
So how funny is, in class the other day, speaking of that, and the Tim brain had a good rebuttal, right? So it was a person in class that goes, "Oh, you're such a guy. We put our stockings on with the right foot first."
What?
Right?
Oh, with the
fishnet stockings.
Oh.
And I said, "Oh, I was just making sure you weren't ambidextrous. I was just being funny." Because even though she's not being malicious, it was interesting because you're assuming only a man thinks that a woman wouldn't put the right foot on first.
That was a weird comment. Why did she say that? I don't understand that.
Because in her brain, women put on their stockings right foot and the left foot. But what if you're left-handed?
I'm left-handed. I put my left sock on first.
And that was the point. The point was you equate that to a man's thinking.
Oh. Well, I've got to tell you about my womanness then.
Yeah.
Because I was like, listen to Tim. Okay, I'm just going to expose my idiocy for everybody to see here right in front of my partner too. When he was talking about this dance move and he said fishnet stockings, it was before the lyrics came up. I'm going, look at him. He must think fishnet stockings are really sexy. Check that man out. Tell him this about if we touch our leg, we're putting on fishnet stockings. He must like fishnet stockings.
Right.
So that's how stupid I was. And then seconds later, the song plays and it's like fishnet stockings.
Right.
So it wasn't Tim Stevenson talking about fishnet stockings.
Yeah.
It was the song.
And the second part of that, my Tim brain, because I know what the song says, right? And I know kind of why I'm doing that. But again, she said, we put them on right foot and left foot. But the gesture was taking them off.
Oh.
Because I'm going down the leg, not up the leg.
She's like, she doesn't even have, well, I can't say anything because I was all over the map on that one. So
but that's just how I think.
That's how women think,
That's,
though.
right.
So, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, even I fell victim to that because I was like, listen to him talk about fishnet stockings.
What is it about fishnets? Those are old school,
yeah,
right?
I don't have a problem with fishnet stockings. So I was like, I got a whole bunch of them. I got a lot of costumes that deserve a pair of fishnet stockings. But I just laughed because I was like, look at Tim. He's trying to help us understand. And he's using fishnet stockings.
He thinks he knows women. What is wrong with him?
No, actually, what I thought was he's trying to show us how to put, because you said
Uh-huh.
them on, like put them on, but take them off.
Right.
And I was like, look, that's so great. He's trying really hard to get inside the women's brain, and he's using fishnet stockings to teach us how to move correctly.
Right.
When in fact, it's in the song.
Yeah. We'll have to do a whole nother pod on. So me and my buddy Miguel have this conversation all the time that women think they know men and men think they know women, and neither is true.
It is not true. It is not true. I can't tell you how many times my husband says something. I'm like, what? And he's like, how'd you get that? And sometimes he'll say something. I'll be like, what? I didn't mean that at all. But I do think that, and I think it might have something to do with procreation or roles that people are trained to be in from a very young age, but they're totally different.
Right.
And then we get upset when somebody kind of shifts in between them. We're like, women should be able to be firefighters, and then they're like, well, you have to pass the test, because if a building's burning, you don't want some tiny little 120-pound girl trying to carry a 160-pound woman out of it.
And how many? Okay, this is, I don't know if it's not chauvinistic. I guess it's just kind of a reality in my brain. How many women statistically say want to be a firefighter?
I don't think very many.
Right.
I don't think they are, but I do think there's some that can pull it off. But
we're talking about the small percentage.
Yeah, they're a small percentage.
But overall,
no.
Women don't go, hey, I want to do construction.
No.
I want to be a firefighter.
No.
Right?
No.
Women don't say, hey, I want to be a trash man.
I think you are 100% correct. The majority of women don't choose those jobs. I do think, and I also think, and this will make some of my women friends mad, but I do think you should be qualified to do that. So if you have to hold a big giant fire hose and you aren't strong enough to do it.
Yeah. And it's not to say there aren't women who aren't strong enough, but we're talking about a broad spectrum of people who typically don't go after that job.
Right. And
they just don't.
And I'd say the same about some man who wasn't strong enough too.
Right.
Like, you have to pass the test, because that's a job. And this is me personally. I don't know about how other people feel, but if I'm in a burning building, I want some really strong individual, male or female, and most likely it's going to be a man, being able to pick up this body and carry it out. Right.
How many, statistically speaking, how many women plumbers are there?
Oh, I don't know. I never thought about that.
And none of this is to say women can't do that job just as good or better than a man, but women don't typically go for that job. They don't go, I want to be a plumber.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, of all the electricians I've had, I've never had one woman electrician.
Yeah, either. And there are, but there's just not in the vast amount of people. Like I said, it's just not a thing. Like, oh, look at all these women on top of that building doing the scaffolding.
No, I know. I think if you look at who builds bridges and stuff like that, you'd be hard pressed to find a bunch of women, doing that. I say if a woman can do it, she's strong enough, then.
So by all means, there are women firefighters, and there are women policemen, and there are women plumbers, and there are women in construction. But the ratio is like night and day.
So what are jobs that men don't typically go for?
Straight men?
Oh, yeah, straight men. I guess that, yeah. I guess
that's a whole, I might get in trouble for that one, but
I'm like, I don't know. Are you just definitely gave another lane?
There's another lane. We're going to bypass it a little bit because we're going to actually have a full conversation about that. But most straight men don't go in high school. I'm going to cosmetology school.
Well, they don't. You're right. Although I will tell you.
Yeah, but there are straight cosmetologists. There's straight men who do hair. There's straight men who do nails. But when you go into a nail salon, 99% of them are female.
You're right. I will tell you though, I saw a guy do lip lining just recently on Facebook, and I thought, that guy does the best lip lining I've ever seen.
Straight man?
No. It was not a straight dude. But he
was my gay friends are beautiful. They're perfect at all that shit. They're perfect at their lines, their eyebrows, or this and that. But they're gay men. But they're really good at it.
So what other jobs? Because I'm just trying to think about that. I never really thought about what jobs do women inherently have that men don't want, or that men don't do?
When you go to a hotel, 99% of housekeepers are female.
I never thought about that. You're right. When I see them moving around,
Are there men? Of course there are. But let's just be honest. 99% of them are female.
Never. Now that you say that, when I think I go to hotels, whenever anyone's like, "Hi, I'm going to clean your room," it's a woman.
Yeah.
Why is that? I mean, that doesn't seem like a man can't do that job.
Mechanics, mostly men.
Mostly men, but not women. But see, all the jobs that are mostly men make more money. Think about it. You know, think about it. A mechanic makes more money. An electrician makes great money. A plumber makes great money. I don't know that firefighters make great money.
Right.
They just have a great.
But there are male dominant more industries, but like I know a lot of female lawyers, and they're amazing.
That seems like things are getting evened out.
That's a little bit more on the even scale. Getting to the.
But you know, most CEOs are still men.
Yeah.
And why is that? I mean.
Well, because we go. This is a whole other conversation, but
we better save it, huh?
If you go all the way back to the hierarchy of men and women back in the day, where like it was kings and queens, the men would go out, the men would build stuff, the men would fight, they would go to war, and the women would do other things. That's just kind of how it's always been, and it's still like that in some countries. Like if you see a protest in India, 90% of the people in the street, men.
Oh, in India.
Watch the videos.
So that's in India. That's not here.
No, but I mean, just that ideology of like men protest, men go to war, men.
Well, you find it to be different here in the United States.
Yeah.
Most of the protesters are not men.
Well, no, not talking about here, but I'm just talking about kind of where the old school comes from, because I look at that as archaic, in my opinion. Like now there's men and women in the street protesting because we've gotten past that mentality.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you go way back, women were in charge. It was not men. So somewhere along the lines that changed, and we'll have to do a whole podcast on it. I'll show you the history behind it, because there was a time where women ruled everything, and it was not brute strength that was doing it. Something happened where that changed, and brute strength became the dominant way of controlling things, which is when technology enters, it becomes less of a thing, which is, and we'll have another whole conversation about.
Like if
the threat to white men.
But watch every war movie.
I know that's
Platoon, this and that and the other.
Oh,
men on the battlefield.
Right.
Women were the smart ones, like behind this and the technology and doing all those things, like in figures and like.
I don't want to. Just to be clear, I have zero interest in ever being. Well, first of all, I'm too old now. Thank God I crossed that bridge. But
you can't draft me.
You can't draft me. I'm too old. But I wouldn't want to do that. I have zero interest in shooting at somebody, or I'm not interested in that. And I never was, not even as a young person, did I ever think for one moment, I can't wait, or I want to join the military, you know.
But there are, there are women who definitely are qualified. There are women who are that strong. If you watch like gladiator shows, some of the women are way stronger than the men, right? But I'm just doing this like broad spectrum of that, because like those typical type of jobs or arenas, it's one way or the other.
Right. I think if you're physically qualified, it doesn't matter what your gender is.
Right.
You're physically qualified.
Agreed.
The difference is, I mean, if you're just to be fair and logical about it, the average female isn't going to be able to do what the average man can do. You know, and like I said, you have to lift people. You have to carry a very large. You know, you have to be strong enough to do some of the things that are required to be a firefighter. And
when the ship is going down, no one says men and children first.
We don't. I know.
They'll never say the men and the children first.
Although some men are weenies.
Some men are weenies. That's what it is.
Vote anyway.
Of course. They're still frail men. Of course.
They'll be like, oh, I don't want to go down.
But that's just like, but that's why we kind of say that, right?
Could you imagine? I can't imagine if something really crazy happens. I could never see you go, no, get out of the way. I'm going to go first.
I'm going first. You need to put the towel down for me and walk over the water.
Well, I do think that there are some people currently in powerful positions that would do exactly that. They'd be like, I'll step on the neck of somebody else.
What if we started reversing all the stereotypical things that men and women do? Like if a man was pissed at the woman because she left the toilet seat down.
I never thought about that.
Why didn't you leave the toilet seat up? But women get pissed when you leave it up.
It's because we fall in. So let me just, I'm just gonna say something there. That's because we fall in, and I am speaking from experience.
Right.
You know, I'm like, my husband never did that. He never left the seat up ever.
Right.
He never was like, hey, put the seat down. Well, as time has gone on, suddenly I noticed the seat is up. In the dark, I fell in. So that is why.
That is funny.
When it's closed,
Right.
maybe you don't aim as well, or you miss the target. That's what's
Yeah.
gonna happen. But at least you're not gonna fall in.
It's facts. That's true.
But that's
You
funny.
see, folks, it's not black or white.
It's not.
You have to remember that life is a funny place. And we are in a funny place. With that being said, on the next pod, we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. It's never ending.
I
So
know.
for our listeners, just be ready. We are literally just launching. We got all kinds of stuff to talk about. Please tune in to It's Not Black or White with Tim Stevenson, and
Diane Blakely.
we will see you soon.
It's not black or white. 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 With Tim Stevenson and Diane Blakely. Not black or white. It's not black or white with Tim Stevenson and Diane Blakely.